Good afternoon. My name is Beth and welcome to Watercolor Painting in the Afternoon. Today I'm painting this lovely scene with a boat with turquoise trim. I'm starting with the sky. I'm just dropping in a little bit of water, and I'm not going to completely fill up the sky with water. I want some patches to remain dry so that they can be the clouds. And you'll see what I mean when I start putting some cobalt blue up into the sky, which is what I'm getting right now. Here we go. Put the cobalt blue in, and anywhere you have a dry patch will appear to be like the clouds in the photograph. And or at least I hope they will. The clouds had a specific shape, and they were really very large in the sky, and so I edited them down just a little bit. My next step will be to drop some Payne's Gray in under the clouds to sort of define them and let your eye see where the bottom of that cloud is. Well, there were other things that I edited out of the picture. One of them was the tree that's in the upper left corner. I edited that out, and then there was a bridge and some kind of junky looking things over in the right hand side, and I left that out as well. Here I'm preparing to start on the meadow that's across the river. I let my paint dry, and now I'm going to pick up some sap green from Van Gogh, and I'm just going to use it straight for the meadow across the river. And that meadow is going to be largely covered up in grasses and then some trees in the background, so it doesn't really matter whether I've altered the color much. And I like the sap green because it's kind of a summery picture, and it makes me think of that spring green grass and the deepness of that. Here I'm putting a little bit of peacock blue in with the green. And in go the trees. Notice that the darker green is bleeding down into that still wet paint and making some nice shadows, and it just looks good to have a little bit of variation in your greens. I think greens are really hard, and they're hard to learn, and they're hard to get just right, and I am still struggling with them. So yeah, working on it. Here I'm putting in one of the taller trees in the background, making sure I get those in as well. There needs to be a little variation in that background. And now I'm coming on the other side of the riverbank and just putting in a flat green color as a background. Going around, being very careful to go around that boat. I don't want to get green in the boat. I was lifting up just a little bit of the green on the other side of that bank to make sure that you could kind of see that there was some flat land between the river and the trees, and I think I accomplished that. Now we're going to start adding some grasses into the scene on that far side, and a little bit of a shadow under the trees. That's really important, is to, again, this is a super dark green, to put that shadow in and make it look like there's depth in your painting. And I think I did okay with that in this part of the painting. So it's just a much darker green. And now I'm beginning to put the grasses in on the far side of the river. Probably a little too dark, but it does lighten up as you go. It lightens up as it dries. Kind of coming underneath the grass here and pulling down some reflections into what will be the water. And this begins the part where I think I could have done a little bit better. I started putting the grasses in the foreground. And there's just a lot in the photograph going on in the foreground. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. I think I made it too busy. And I wish that I had left some of that flat green in the picture so that, so that your eye could fill it in. Instead of me filling it in, let the viewer's eye fill it in. And surprisingly, it will. You think that you have to paint everything and represent everything when all you really need to do is suggest it. And I may have messed up a little bit in that area on this particular painting, but you'll see what I mean. And I think, I think I should have left some of it a flatter color, but live and learn. And you can see whether or not you agree with me as I paint along. But I'm getting it a little bit darker right here because I thought that first coat was, it was pretty light, and I wanted a little bit darker background for my grasses and my weeds and those things. So again, being very careful around my boat. I don't want to get any green on that boat. Here's the reference photo again. As you can see, all the little weeds and things in the foreground. I then started trying to put those weeds in. But first I gave the boat a try, the boat a little go. Here I've got some Jaune Brilliant, and I found that every painting I do now, I'm trying to find somewhere where I can use Jaune Brilliant. But actually I probably could have just used any tan, any very light brownish color would have done, including ochre. So I ended up putting, the shadow color was burnt ochre. No, burnt, what does he call it? Is it burnt, not sienna, burnt umber. And then that's just for the body of the boat itself. It needs plenty of indication of shadow, and that's what I was doing here, was trying to get the shadows in. So you can see the very, very little of the Jaune Brilliant remains by the time I'm done, but you know, I gotta use it somewhere. And then finally, the prettiest part, the prettiest color in this painting is this turquoise that goes around the rim of the boat and trims it beautifully, and it just sort of stands out in the painting as this gorgeous blue. And now while that dries a little bit, I'm going to come back with the grasses. And here's where I think I put maybe a little too much busy in the foreground, and wish I'd left some areas more of that flat green. You'll see what I mean. So you see along the bottom there, I put some little leaves, and it would have been nice to leave the patch I'm painting right now. It would have been nice to leave that open so that there's a little variation in texture. You know, that's something that I've been learning, is that you don't just want to vary the colors of something, but the texture as well. And I mean, that's a hard lesson to learn. For some reason, I want to fill in every square inch. And I know cognitively that it's not going to look quite as good, but I just do it anyway. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to learn to put a little bit of paint in, you know, a few leaves at a time, maybe walk away, get a glass of water or a cup of coffee or something, and come back and say, I wonder if I need any more right there. And maybe that'll help. But yeah, so far I've really struggled with that. And maybe that's something that I can give you, that so that you don't make the same mistake. It's not that it looks terrible, it's that it could look better. And I think that if I had varied the textures a little bit more, I did some because I've got grasses there and then I've got leaves, and that's a variation in texture. But I also think I wish I'd just left some of it flat. And that way the leaves and the grass would have stood out more. If that makes any sense at all. I hope it does. So again, I'm trying very hard not to get into the boat, you know, with the greens, but the boat is pretty much dry now, so I do need to put some grasses and leaves over the bottom part so that it looks like it's actually sitting in the grass. And a little bit of shadow, maybe a little bit of just plain dry earth. I think I was actually beginning to get a sense of what I needed right there, and I did put some plain earth in. here I was pointing at something. I don't know why. I think the shadow underneath the boat is what I was thinking about, and the shadows on the boat. That's what it was. So the boat itself had some little details on it and some shadows on it that I wanted to paint in. And I'm using just Payne's Gray here because it just, it doesn't really change the colors underneath it as much as if I tried to use more brown. But there we go. There's a mixture of the two, and that's going to work best, I think. This is where I was putting in some dark patches because I had made it too busy, and then I needed to put shadows in. So I made it even busier. I'm not sure whether it worked out well or I wish I hadn't done it, but I do like the contrast. And you can sort of judge for yourself whether or not you think that's necessary as a step in the painting. I'd love to hear your opinions on it too. If you want to put those in the comments, let me know what you think of how I could have improved maybe the foreground. If you think it's fine the way it is, or if you agree that I should have left a few plain green flat washes in there, and how you feel about some of the shadow areas. Finally, a little bit of Payne's Gray for the river itself, along with a few touches of green along the far bank that indicate a reflection. And finally, we take the tape off. See what we have.